Good morning, buen día, buen dia.
Good morning. We will have translation into English, Portuguese, and Spanish, so please use your headphones as appropriate.
Bueno, buenos días.
Good morning. We are starting the orientation session within the IGF forum, and I would like to greet all those present today. And this session will be a discussion amongst friends. So if any wish to ask a question, please use the microphone, raise your hands, and you can interrupt us at any moment. And you can make your comments at any time. We also have remote participants, so any intervention of a remote participant, please let me know. I am Fatima Cabronero, and I am part of the IGF forum, and I will briefly introduce my panelists. We have the secretary, and we will soon start to talk about the systems we will discuss here. We will have a friendly discussion, so if you need any help, please participate. We want all of you to participate in this internet forum. I would like to introduce Deborah Brown, and thank you very much for your presence here. We have also the members of the International Office in the Caribbean. We also have the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, who will share a bit about his experience. We have some acronyms here. We have the people from the Secretary's office, or the Secretariat for the IDF. Thank you very much for being here. We also have our youth program, and I will ask you to share a bit about this program. Also, I would like to thank you for being here, participating in this work. If any of you wish to say something, please feel free.
Welcome you all on the behalf of the Secretariat to the 10th edition
Del back. Sí. Ahora sí. Oh, dale.
Bueno, ya volvemos. Bueno, ya tuvimos como una...
We had a brief introduction. He was telling us about the IGF, and for it to be understandable to all, mainly to first time participants, this forum is a space for debate where all of us sit down on an equal basis together with representatives of communities and stakeholders so that we can chat at an equal level. This is what we intend to do in this opening session so that we can make the most of the other sessions of academia, government, and the private sector so that we can discuss this openly. We will talk first about the Internet Governance Forum and the several spaces dedicated to Internet governance. All stakeholders will be engaged. I would like to talk a little bit about Internet governance in our WSIS process. Who is used to our process? And would like to explain a bit more about this topic and our society. We will talk about the process and the importance it has in our forum. There is an acronym in English for the WSIS. This is a process that was established under the ITU ICT. It lasted for 3 years, and the first phase was in Geneva and the second in Tunis in 2005. One of the products of this summit, this international summit, is the Tunis agenda, which has to do with many things that have to do with information society. But what is of specific interest today is the creation on behalf of the United Nations to create this forum. And here we are. So this is thanks to the Tunis Summit. And today we are here in the IGF, which is part of this process. The WSIS was important because the United Nations participated as an important stakeholder. For the first time, we have the situation where we can participate in different ways, not just in such an open way as in this forum, but we allow for participation. And for these 10 years since the first mandate, when the IGF was first approved, after 5 years, the General Assembly of the United Nations approved another 5. So now we are in the last edition of the second mandate or term, which was approved by the UN for the IGF. We need to see what happens with this forum from now on because this term finishes now. This is part of a larger process. We have a revision process of the World Summit, which is called WSIS plus 10. So after 10 years. So this process is about to be concluded, and we are holding a series of hearings and meetings to evaluate the impact of the Tunis agenda of the WSIS and which steps should be taken in the future towards this effect. So the renewal of the Internet Governance Forum. Today you have available in the WSIS website the second draft of the document that is coming about as a resolution for the meetings to be held in New York in the UN building on December 16th and it's actually 15th and 16th of December in New York that this meeting will be held. I invite you to participate and have a look at this document. You can contribute to this document, and also in continuing with WSIS process, tomorrow morning in the main hall, we will have a consultation on the WSIS plus 10 process. This will occur at 12:30 tomorrow. This afternoon, between 2 and 6 p.m., there will be a meeting on WSIS as well. Tomorrow, we will have the WSIS plus 10. Tomorrow at 9 to 12:30, we'll have the main session. And this afternoon, we will have a meeting at noon at High Society to discuss the use of WSIS plus 10. We are concerned with the main results of the World Summit of this event. We are participating here in this forum for this purpose. It's also important that all of us participate because we are under a revision process. And this process will be concluded in December, so I encourage you to participate. Thank you very much, Sebastian. And we are analyzing the distinct relationships that we have in internet governments. We also invited Sebastian to participate, and these initiatives are open to the participation of all. You just have to register in order to participate. There are other organisms or organizations at regional and global levels that discuss internet governance topics, and they are also involved on the internet governance issue. We will ask Andres to share with us and his role that he has and with the regional internet governance policies and also at a global level, and also how this impacts the technical community. Thank you very much, Fatima. First, I would like to say that it's a great pleasure to be here in João Pessoa. For us Latin Americans and Caribbeans, to hold an IGF in this region and in Brazil is a great privilege. I would like to speak Portuguese in my presentation, but maybe some other time it will be possible. So I will proceed speaking in Spanish. It's also a regional language. I am Sandro Piazza. I work at LACNIC, and this is we care for the internet in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this is one of those organisms that comprises the internet technical community. We have a role in managing and designating internet domains. So we create standards or domains. We also create policies for domains. So these are one of the tracks that we include under internet governance. And this is one of our main activities and one of the critical resources. This discussion is not so directly present, and this is a critical aspect of the forum. There have been some agreements. They're not formal agreements, nor mandatory ones, nor mandates, but they have been present in the global community, and this is the quality that we seek here. We have the registry of IP addresses and other subjects related to the internet and other critical resources. In the forum, we always support this type of debate. Mainly, the organization that I represent has a vision as to promote human rights via the internet and also develop the internet in our region. Several topics in the general agenda of our forum are relevant to us, and we are here as a group. We have two stands in the exhibit area, and we have several activities organized towards this effect. We do this under the LACNIC umbrella, and this is part of the evolution that should comprise our work. We started as a global forum in 2006 in Greece. Then we continued with several initiatives in different regions and countries. And this is something very important. This with regard to its importance within the regional internet forums. And we also hope that with this, IGF holds its mandates, exercises its mandates, and we hope this continues for another 10 years. And anyway, one of the most important results with regard to this forum is that there be discussions, debates, not just with government, but also with all stakeholders on an equal level so that we can discuss and learn from different points of view from all countries, regions, and with other entities, with the Internet Society and the Information Society as well, committed towards the region with LACNIC also.
I think it's worth mentioning as well that in many cases, the debate we have had an impact in different regions and territories, and this is something that's very praiseworthy as one of the results of the forum. So I'll leave it here. Thank you very much, Andre. And then later we can discuss the regional and national discussions. I would like to ask you if you have any questions. Any questions from our remote participants? What about the participants in this room? Do you have any questions, or would you like to make a comment about what you've heard? Okay, so we can move forward. One of the items in the agenda is explaining the role of the Secretariat and the multi-stakeholder advisory group. We had two colleagues that were invited. However, they were unable to arrive. So I'll take this role of a panelist to explain what we have, and so that we can fulfill. So the IGF, from the very first edition in 2006, has had an executive coordinator, this up to 2011. So that was the first 5 years of the mandate of the Internet Governance Forum. And this role was not covered later. We still don't have anyone in that position. So the Internet Governance Forum, or the so-called MAG or MAG, the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, is made up of 56 members. It's a group that tries to respect the different diversity voices in terms of gender and other aspects. And what they do is to provide assistance to the secretariat so that we can fulfill our role in the IGF meeting held every year. Well, in the very beginning, the MAG was not really very diverse, but little by little we opened up to the different voices. So each of the stakeholders can submit candidates to the advisory group. If any stakeholder or a member of the communities would like to participate, they can also submit their application and become an advisor. And this is a role a mandate for 3 years, and it's a voluntary position. The objective is to design the agenda of the IGF, both considering the topics that Brian will discuss, also proposing workshops and points for improvement. This is the role of the multi-stakeholder advisory group. In the beginning, their job was more closed in and not as open to participation of the audience. Now we have discussion lists that are open for participation. Anyone can participate and join their forces to the MAG group to design the agenda. For example, we have a best practices forum. Anyone can participate and help us draft the documents that are discussed in these meetings. So, of course, MAG has an advisory role, and besides that, we have a secretariat. Brian is part of it, and they provide support to the IGF meeting. Of course, this is something that takes much of our time along the year. It's a complex event, and our budget is very small at the Secretariat, and we are unable to address several issues at once. So we also ask for your participations. So I would like to extend you this invitation. If you're interested, please talk to your representative or to the group that you represent and submit your application, because this is a group that's constantly being renewed, and we always need new people that are involved with this discussion. I would like to now hand it over to our colleague Deidre Williams. She joined us, and she is one of the co-coordinators of the Internet Governance Caucus, representing the civil society. And she'll tell us more about her activities, the objective of the caucus, and how you can all participate if you're interested. Deidre?
Morning to everybody. Bom dia, which is half of the Portuguese that I can speak. The other half is obrigada. It's sometimes a little difficult to know where to begin. So let me begin from the very beginning, which was in fact out of the Caribbean, which is where I come from, St. Lucia in the Caribbean. We have 170,000 people. We are very tiny. When we come to somewhere like Brazil, we disappear completely, and we're not on many of the maps. But the Caribbean had the first Internet Governance Forum of all, even before the first major UN meeting. We've just had the 11th meeting at the beginning of September. So we're slightly ahead of the game. I'm saying that to demonstrate to you that very small places are important as well. If you come from a very small place, or you come from a very small part of a very large place, you are very important as well. To make that importance valuable, you have to learn how to speak out and say things. Everybody so far has been talking about that. It's all very well having spaces for participation, but within that space, it's extremely important to participate. And that means you have to pluck up your courage and say something. And I know from my own experience just how hard that can be, but I assure you that if you try, you can do it. My association with the Internet Governance Caucus, I'm trying to remember when I joined it. I've been connected with the IGF since the third IGF in Hyderabad. I never thought I'd go to India. Who was going to send me to India from St. Lucia in the Caribbean? But I got there, and I have been in person at every IGF since then, apart from Nairobi, which I attended in my night dress at 3 o'clock in the morning on my computer. You can do that too. The Internet Governance Caucus is an association of individual members. You join as an individual, not as a representative necessarily of a group. These individual people came together initially in the hope of providing a meeting space for very diverse opinions, because you will find, if this is your first IGF, that internet governance is a place where lots of people have lots of ideas, and not all of those ideas live happily with one another. So you have to negotiate, and you have to find a place where you can meet. So that is the purpose of the IGC, to provide this sort of meeting space. Over the last couple of years, the group has had difficulties, as I think in general there have been difficulties in the internet governance arena in bringing people together. Hopefully we are beginning to find our way again. We will be having a meeting on day 2, which is Wednesday, at 12 o'clock in meeting room 3, and we would be very, very happy for as many of you as possible to join us. So let me invite you now, and if you have the time free, please come and we can explain more fully then what the Internet Governance Caucus is all about. But for now, you're free to join. You can join online. I will get a message and I will say yes, or Analia, who unfortunately could not be here for this meeting, she is also keeping an eye on things from Argentina. Is that enough? She couldn't come. So I expect to see many of you on Wednesday, meeting room 3 at the IGC meeting. Diversity is very important, so bring the diversity to the meeting, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Deidre. Y me dejas justo una palabra.
Well, I'm left with an opportunity to reinforce the importance of diversity. You see in the next coming days that respecting diversity, this is what our work is all about. And we're trying very hard to improve diversity and to speak about diversity and the participation of the different actors in internet governance forums. I would like to hand it over to Deborah. She'll talk about participation of women in internet governance spaces and how APC, the Association for Progressive Communication, views this issue. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure to be here today with you all. I'll be my Portuguese is quite limited, so please bear with me. The Association for Progressive Communications is both an international NGO, a non-governmental organization, and a network of around 50 members who work on ICT issues relating to human rights, to access, gender equality, and social justice. I happen to live in the United States, and I'm American, but most of my colleagues live and work in the Global South, so I'm not necessarily the best representative of APC in that regard, and we have lots of different members in Latin America and in Brazil as well. Our priorities for the IGF really focus around those issues relating to access to human rights, to kind of enhancing and participation around internet governance discussions, but we take all of these issues with a gender lens, meaning that we come to the IGF not just looking at human rights, but how do human rights specifically impact women. And I'm just interested from those around the room, does it make sense to talk about internet governance from a gender perspective, or is that sort of a different approach for you all? Well, I can clarify a little bit if that helps, but for example, when we talk about the rights of privacy, privacy in general is talked about surveillance, about government surveillance, for example, but women experience surveillance differently in the house, in their communities. If you talk about access, you can increase the infrastructure and the access to technology, but there's other factors relating to economic, cultural, and social barriers that women face that wouldn't necessarily be part of a technical discussion. So over the years, we've been coming to the IGF and participating and trying to get a sense of how to increase diversity, as Deidre was saying, diversity in both the participants and also the speakers and topics that are discussed. So APC is also part of the multi-stakeholder advisory group and is part of the selection process to help bring more diverse views into the program itself. And so one way we've been doing this is by working with the IGF Secretariat on something called the Gender Report Card. And this is also part of our work in the Gender Dynamic Coalition, which I'll talk about in a minute. But since 2012, we've been monitoring and assessing the level of participation in the different workshops, both of the participants and the speakers. And we found over the years that while there's more women in the room, the actual topics aren't necessarily getting as diverse. So there's more people in the conversation, but the conversations haven't shifted that much. So that's something we've really been trying to do on a number of levels. One is by working at the regional level. And we've attended and I think co-organized many regional IGFs in Latin America, in Africa, in the Asia Pacific region, and I'm forgetting the last region at the moment. Anyone? I'm forgetting the fourth region right now. But one thing we've done before each IGF this year is to organize a gender and internet governance exchange, which brings in women who haven't been part of these discussions and helps them become more familiar with the topics on how to engage, so that when they actually attend the IGFs at the regional level and some of them at the global level, that they're more comfortable to attend, to raise their topics. It takes courage, as Deidre said, but I think the point of this exercise is to help women feel like they can bring their issues to the table and speak in the language of the IGF, which can be quite intimidating. Another area of our work is to participate in the Gender Dynamic Coalition. And dynamic coalitions are groups that have come together around different issues at the IGF. There's many. There's one on internet rights and principles. There's another on public access. So there's basically a number of groups that come together around a specific issue from different stakeholder groups, and throughout the course of the year they meet online, they have email lists, and they try to come up with initiatives to advance their issues. So we've been working as part of the Gender Dynamic Coalition on a range of different issues, that one of them is the Gender Report Card. And another, this is in the category of work called intercessional work, so it's the stuff that happens between the annual meetings. And another form of intercessional work is something called the Best Practice Forum, which really tries to get a sense of what the best practices around certain issues are. There's one on net neutrality, for example. So it's people who are working on a document trying to distill principles around net neutrality. And we've been involved in one on countering abuse against women online. And that is basically an opportunity for working on a document to help find the principles and what are the best practices in countering abuse against women online. And so at this session, at this IGF, there's a workshop on the outcome of that best practice forum, which will be on day 2, which I guess is Wednesday at 9 a.m. And then we also have the Dynamic Coalition on Gender and Internet Governance on on Thursday at 9 a.m. And as I said, we've also been trying to propose different workshops that explore internet governance issues from a gender perspective. So we have a workshop on Wednesday at 12:30, which is looking at technology-related violence against women and freedom of expression, because we found that's a big challenge in our work lately, is how do we address violence against women online while also not letting that become an excuse for censorship or to limit other people's speech. So we have this workshop at 12:30, and if that sounds on Thursday, so if that sounds interesting to you, we really welcome you to come and to raise your voice and come into the conversation. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Thank you very much. Voy a preguntar nuevamente si hay alguna...
I'll ask you once again, do we have any questions from our remote participants? Now, to close, I would like to ask if any of the conference participants would like to ask a question or make a comment. You can speak in any language of your choice. I am Anderson from Brazil. I have a comment about what you said this morning. The issues relating to the construction of an internet that respects gender, net neutrality, and that counts on the participation of the young. What we see here is that we have a large number of young people that in the last 2 months of preceding the program have participated actively together with other young people. We drafted together the Declaration of the Youth, and we also worked with the Youth Observatory. Youth wants to feel represented on the internet. We believe that the virtual environment ends up reproducing the same circumstances and problems we find in the real world, crime, violence, etc. So we consider it very important that the young participate in IGF. As for the renewal of the mandate, it must be evaluated this year, and it should promote greater participation of the young as well. I think we shouldn't lose track of this issue now that we're making the change, because the internet, as the dinosaurs who made the internet know, today the participation of youth is even more important so that we can implement the necessary changes. Most of the internet users of today are young, in fact. And the way the internet is used sometimes to purposes that are not very productive. So I think it's important that we disseminate knowledge and empower youth so that they can help us build an internet for all that belongs to all, and where everyone has the freedom to express themselves while respecting diversity and opposing opinions. Well, this was my comment, basically, and the Observatory of the Youth and the Declaration of the Youth. I think that by the end of the week, we'll be able to deliver a copy of that declaration so that you can find out more about our yearnings and our struggle. Thank you very much.
por ese comentario.
Thank you very much for your participation. And speaking of diversity, of course, we shouldn't forget the young. They should be part of those groups that are discussing not only internet issues through the IGF, but also participating in other debates. And of course, this is something that's part of the agenda, the declaration, and I would like to actually give a little more time to this discussion. Thank you very much for participating. I think that it's fantastic that the young are participating so actively and in the IGF. So just hold on a second and we'll go back to that point. Do we have any more comments? A complaint maybe? Well, I'll complain that they're drinking mate and nobody invited me to have a sip. Okay, please introduce yourself. And I am Carlos Augusto. I am a computing science student. There's something that really intrigues me. The relationship of the technical community with the Internet Governance Forum, because we work directly with technology development. However, many times the policies that are discussed and the social issues that are touched by those Internet governance groups, as far as I understood it, the technical community does not really participate in those discussions. You talk about several social issues and higher problems, but many times technology will be the driver to find the solution for those issues. So I still see that there is a lot of distance. There is a gap between what you discuss and the technology solutions that could bridge those gaps. So I would like to ask, so is there really a connection, or is there a dialogue with the technical community? How does this take place? Because I am under the impression that IGF works with the technical development of protocols, but issues relating to privacy and data flows, where the community could participate to show, I don't know, possibilities relating to data transmission and other problems. We could participate in finding the solution for that, a technical solution. So I think that there is an opportunity for us to come closer together. So, and I would like to know if there is a real connection or not, and how does this dialogue take place? Because I still think that there is a gap between the technical community and the discussions relating to the internet. Well, I'll try to answer part of this question. The technical community, in the traditional definition of the word, is a group of people and organizations with a specific role, identifying possible solutions. So the technology community congregates people and organizations that, to an extent, work with technology. And I think it's important to make a distinction in terms of the IGF context. So I think that you could refer to the spaces for participation that exist not only in a forum like this, but also in different communities that define policies and make other technical decisions. For example, protocol parameters, we have several groups with the possibility for participating and discussing how those protocols are defined. In our engineering work group, for example, discussions relating to domain names, Those decisions are taken mostly in the ICANN meetings. And there are 5 entities. LECNIC is one of them. We also have policy forums. We have mailing lists and meetings in which you can participate. All those meetings are open to the public, and you can participate remotely as well. And as for those institutions I was mentioning, they give great focus and encourage greater participation. They want to hear opinions of those who have a technical background. So this is how far I can go in replying to your question, I believe. Thank you very much, Andres. And from the regional point of view, considering Latin America and the Caribbean, let's not forget that the next year will be very important. There are several meetings scheduled in this region. For example, ICANN will have 2 meetings in our region. They'll have one by mid-year. I think it's confirmed. I'm not really sure where it's going to be hosted. And in late October, early November, there will be a meeting in Puerto Rico. It was, of course, organized by ICANN America, but it's also in our region. And in Buenos Aires, there will be a LACNIC meeting. We'll have, in fact, 2 annual meetings. We always have those. We also have LACNOG meetings, the network operators in Latin America and the Caribbean, and probably IGF will take place in Mexico next year. Of course, provided that the mandate is renewed after this meeting.
And I think it's very important to keep in mind from a Latin American and Caribbean standpoint these participation opportunities and several meetings that will be launched here in the continent. Thank you very much, Sebastian. Later, we will now have the answers by Olivier, and then we'll move forward.
It's a very people who really have nothing very much to do with the technology. And it's very important in a meeting like this that their interests should be protected as well. I take your point about the gap, but I see another gap for the people who really aren't technical to be able to get into the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivier, go ahead.
Thank you, Fatima. Olivier Crepin-Leblond for the transcript. It's interesting, actually, the internet has evolved an enormous amount between what it used to be 10, 15, 20 years ago and what it is today. Initially, as you always find, there was a lot of tension between technical community and non-technical community. You know, the techies were all the geeks and the people that put it together, but they understand absolutely nothing about business. They understand nothing about the law, nothing about any of this stuff. And similarly, in the other way, the technical people would say, oh, if only we didn't have any lawyers involved on the internet or business people involved on the internet, things would run so much easier. In fact, they look back at the early days where it was only mostly just technical people that were on the internet. With time, things have really changed. There was a time when people that used to go to the Internet Engineering Task Force meetings, the IETF meetings, would not even dream about going to an ICANN meeting or going to an IGF. And the other way around as well would be exactly the same thing. You know, non-technical people would never even dream of going to an IETF meeting. They would see this as, you know, sleeping with the enemy, basically. Which of course is not very good because these days everything is related, everything is connected together. Thankfully, a number of people, a few pioneers started going to one and the other meetings, and things have actually gotten a lot better. In fact, some of the more recent big topics that have come up, such as, for example, the iron stewardship transition, has basically gotten all of the communities to come together and work together in the same working groups, on the same panels, and that's been a real positive development because the walls, the barriers that were there between the communities have pretty much faded away, and now everyone is working together for an internet that will work for everyone, that will work for business, for civil society. And I think there's a greater understanding between the communities of where we all come from. We might not be there yet as speaking with the same view or singing the same tune, but the improvement is definitely there. In ICANN, in the at-large community, which is the part of ICANN that brings the views of the internet end users forward, the organizations that make up part of the at-large community are very varied. So some of them are from the technical community, some of them are business-oriented, some of them are civil society, but they have this defining factor that this common defining factor that they work with internet end users. And really, the internet wouldn't be the internet without end users involved. At the end of the day, before the internet was there were a lot of other networks out there that were private networks, and it's only because of the services that were on one side, but also the number of end users on the other side, that the internet managed to grow the way that it has. So I think we've got a bright future ahead of us for all of this, and every meeting there's more barriers being pulled down, and there's more understanding between the technical and non-technical communities. And I hope that this collaboration and positive spirit of collaboration will continue, because the challenges ahead of us are both technical in nature with regards to, let's say, the running out of IPv4 addresses. There's a session about this, IPv6. This is a very technical field, but we need that because if we want to be able to support the next billion users on the internet, we need to have this. Similarly speaking, that also raises a number of non-technical issues, privacy, and various other factors, and this is also very important to treat at the same time. You can't just have these dialogues taking place in different silos. Everything has to come together. So I hope I've answered the question.
Merci beaucoup, Olivier. Bueno, si queda alguna pregunta o comentario sobre este tema, lo vamos a pasar para el final porque...
If you have any questions on this topic, we will hold them to the end because our agenda is already behind schedule. Later, we will talk more about the interventions. And now, let's talk about our agenda and the first-time participants. We will try to navigate in IGF so that we can understand the different topics. And now I will pass the floor to Brian, who is a member of the IGF Secretariat, so that he can talk about how we can find our presentations with topics, subtopics were elaborated for the IGF.
My name is Brian. I work with the IGF Secretariat for the United Nations. We welcome you all here. We really encourage you all to intervene during all the sessions, to take advantage of this week to meet others who are here in the hallways at lunchtime. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to meet really interesting people here in Brazil. So please be as active as participants as you can. We want to encourage everybody to participate on an equal footing with everybody else here. So don't be shy, like my colleague said before. Just quickly, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. I want to walk through the schedule briefly, which is also up here on the screen. We have more than 150 sessions, I think including today, happening between now and Friday. Certainly a busy schedule. So to help you all navigate it a bit, we have built this schedule. You can access it via the IGF website, which is intgovforum.org. And you can actually register to the schedule as a participant and let everybody know what sessions you'll be interested in attending. which is a cool feature. Let's just take a look. On the right side, there is a color-coded table, which is the way that we sort of label each session throughout the week. In a nutshell, there's a main session, which is the biggest room, which is just across the hall there, which is where the opening ceremony will take place. This afternoon, the government of Brazil is hosting a high-level session, where ministers and other representatives will be speaking about the issues. That is the biggest room here, and that's where main sessions will take place. Some main sessions are 3 hours. I think tomorrow there's a main session on the WSIS consultations. That was mentioned earlier for 3 hours in the morning. In the afternoon, there will be opening ceremony and opening session. And then throughout the week, some sessions are 3 hours, some sessions I think are 2 hours. And those are large roundtable with high-level speakers, but we also encourage you all to join those sessions and to intervene as well. I won't go through each color, and then there's the workshops, which are in rooms like this. There's, I think, 10 workshop rooms that run in parallel to the main session, so at any given time there can be 10 different sessions happening at once. That is the case most of the week. And you can choose which workshops you want to go to based on the content of the workshops, and they're also organized by theme. These themes for the meeting were selected by the IGF community. The IGF Secretariat had a consultation just after last year's meeting to decide what the themes would be, what the workshops would focus on this year. Those themes are critical internet resources, cybersecurity and trust, emerging issues, multi-stakeholder cooperation, inclusiveness and diversity, internet and human rights, internet economy, so just about anything under the umbrella of internet governance and internet policy. So whatever you're interested in, I'm sure you can find workshops and other sessions that will be interesting to you. There are also open forums, which are open workshop type sessions where organizations in internet governance, some governments have open forums, some intergovernmental organizations have open forums. Those are also open to anybody, and that is a chance for them to explain to participants what kind of work they're doing, what their interests are, what their positions are on different issues. Those, of course, are open to everybody, and we encourage you to join those sessions. Dynamic coalition sessions, best practice forums, those are, again, open to everyone. Those are two types of intersessional working activities of the IGF community. Some of you may be aware of the work, but there's been work going on throughout the year on specific issues related to internet governance, and we've been convening virtual meetings, WebEx phone calls. There's been mailing lists where people have been contributing their ideas to those topics, and those groups will be meeting in person here. So those are all very interesting things, and they're very specific topics. So please take a look at the schedule and see if you're interested in joining those. They would love to have you. And I think I'll also mention remote participation and social media is very important. Online participation, we like to call it. On the IGF website, you can navigate there and find pages for remote participation, online participation access, where all the sessions are webcasted. Our session right now is being webcasted. You'll be able to find it on the IGF YouTube channel. There are also ways for those that aren't here with us in person to participate online. And we've been referring to our remote moderator back there, but in each room there is a remote moderator who will field questions from those joining online, so they can interact directly. They can also intervene with audio interventions and even video interventions. So we hope and encourage, maybe if you have friends around the world or who weren't able to come here to João Pessoa and who want to participate, please let them know about these features and tell them to join. I'll stop there. Please, if you have any questions, let us know for any of the panelists here. We'd love to answer questions today on day 0 before the meeting starts. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Tengo una participación de la participación remota, perdón, quiero tomar un comentario o pregunta de participación remota y luego voy a abrir a comentarios y preguntas de aquí. Sí, adelante, por favor.
Thank you, Chair. We have a question from.
Thank you very much. We have a remote question from Mr. Miguel from Argentina. So I will pass the floor to him. He will ask his question through the audio system.
Perdón, va a participar.
Will we be able to have his participation?
Okay, I'm going to.
I will place his question on the screen.
Bueno, mientras esperamos.
We hope we are able to resolve this problem. The question asks, I would like to congratulate this panel, Fatima, and also check with the room if they have any information on the ICANN policy for this year. Is there the possibility to become a candidate for the World Bank? For example, citizens from Argentina and Venezuela, they would be a great tool to participate in these communities.
Saludos.
Thank you very much. And I would like to greet Argentina for the question.
Bueno, muchas gracias a Nacho. Me escucho con un.
I would like to thank Ignacio for the question. Thank you. This is related to capacities, and please feel free to discuss on the ICANN fellowship issue. Otherwise, we will move on to the next point.
People. There are a few sessions taking place that are related to ICANN during IGF, so you can probably see them on the overall website and choose them and engage in them. My response is not directly related to this, but yeah, there's so much going on at the moment. What I was going to add was actually with regards to participation. There's also social media out there, so use Facebook, tweet. That's really important. And sometimes the dialogue, the discussion that takes place on Twitter or Facebook or any of the social media is even more extensive than what goes on in the room. And at least it's global, so everyone is on the same thing. You know, we're all at the end of our mobile or the end of our laptop tapping away and writing away. And it's it sometimes brings some really, really interesting discussions, and it then can get treated in the room itself. So please do so.
Gracias, Olivier. ¿Hay alguna pregunta o comentario sobre
Do we have any question or comment about this subject that Brian mentioned? The agenda, the colors, the topics. Otherwise, we will move on to the two last points, okay? We still have two topics that have already been discussed, actually. So those who wish to comment on these topics, we still have two topics. The issue on national and international and regional forums, and also the second point, which is the participation of youth in these spaces. For many years in IGFs, we already communicated a lot that there is the need to involve youth in these spaces, either as individuals, groups, or organizations. The organizations have not worked very strongly for youth to participate, but now there is an initiative that finally was able to work with youth and prepare them to participate in the IGF sessions, for them to be present here. Now they are part of this youth program. So please raise your hand if you are part of this group. Very good, very good. Welcome. I hope this session meet helps you with your needs. And to share more about this topic and other topics that you have worked with, let's first hear Natalia, who was the instructor of this program. And afterwards, we will also talk about with Governor, who is young, who works with this program and has come here to talk about this program. I will be brief. We have many people present from these youth programs. This started together with ISOP, with the support of private companies, and we started the online competition in the ISOP platform. We involved around 100 and 130 youth who were selected for the second phase for the online discussion. They participated in social networks and all means that could be used. They were very participative. There were many doubts. They asked many questions about EPv6, and besides this, they were also able to represent and express their voices and opinions. People between ages 18 and 25, and also Latin Americans. They were aware that there was space where they could express their ideas, and they participated in the forums based on two initiatives, Declaration and the Youth Observatory. I am Adela, as Natalia mentioned. In the youth program, there was a declaration that was drafted for Latin America and Caribbean. But nobody would represent us as the youth. There were initiatives in other regions, but this is the first time that the youth in our region want to be heard. They express their ideas and they bring messages to this forum. There is also the idea of the observatory. We don't want our participation to be restricted in to the IGF. We want this to continue with regard to all the internet governance issues. We want youth to find their space and become part of the internet ecosystem. Now, I would ask other colleagues to also say something. I don't want to be the only person to speak. We're all here in Brazil. 2 minutes, please. Another person wants to speak now. Good morning. I am Carlos. I am part of the program, and I would like to share how this initiative wants to participate in initiatives around the world, but this does not exist in Latin America. That's why it's very good to have Latin American youth participating here. We want to raise our voices and have representatives from other continents, youth from other regions, to lead the process in this type of forum. Thank you very, very much, and congratulations for the hard work over many months. We hope you make the best of the forum, and for those already involved, we will continue to work together so that we may interact together, and we wish you a good experience, and we hope you get involved more and more. There's another point to be discussed. Many are here for the first time in the World Forum, but those who already participated in a forum, at least in their region for once. And what about a national governance forum? Has anyone already participated? Very well. So you already know some kind of forum space. We already have talked about the LACNIC forum, which is also a participation space. And now we will have someone talking about the forum in our region and the distinct regional initiatives from our region as well, because Jeff, he's not the only one, but there are many initiatives being held, and he will talk about several national initiatives. So those who want to talk about these national initiatives will have a few minutes, but we must talk about this before leaving. There are many initiatives taking place at a world level. At a global level, there's only one, of course, but there are many initiatives around the world. There's a very interesting list in the forum page of the IGF that does not include all necessarily, but these initiatives communicate amongst themselves, and these are those listed here. We will find those who have made contact with the IGF and who hold events. In the Latin American and Caribbean region, we have, for example, a movement until present. We have 13 IGFs at a national or regional level. We have the LAC IGF, for example, and also the Caribbean IGF, which has taken place since the first global IGF. It has the same name. It can be called the Caribbean IGF, which comes before the World IGF or the Global IGF, and there was a regional one now for Central America. Besides these three events, these three regional events, we also have participated at least with the same concept. I may miss some event due to lack of information, but we also participate in 9 national events based on national internet governance events. Some have the name of IGF or others, discussions amongst multi-stakeholders, Mexico, Salvador, Dominican Republic, Paraguay, Argentina, and Peru are amongst the countries. Maybe I forgot one or another, but anyway. The activity was very interesting. At least 12 events directly related to internet governance in the Latin American and Caribbean region. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sebastian. Yes, go ahead. Good morning. I'm from Bolivia, and I would like to know what I need to do to organize a national IGF in my country. People don't imagine about this yet. It's very far from starting. That's why I think it's important to start discussing this. Thank you very much. It's an excellent question that was within the questions that were foreseen on this topic. So, André, could you answer this? Let me give you a generic answer. I could say this dialogue already exists. As soon as the community is ready to have this dialogue and other entities, ICANN, Internet Society, want to hold these debates talking about ideas, etc. The only thing I would highlight is that there are a series of factors that merge together. In the case of Bolivia, I received an invitation for an event by the end of November. I don't know exactly what it is about. I think it is about governance, but there are people considering about this. It's important to contact these people and that we include all actors that may participate. This is the only thing I would like to say about this topic. And it's also important to better define the Bolivian initiative. In terms of Bolivia, the invitation that we received was to work with internet governance. Eduardo Rojas was here, and maybe he could give us better information about what is happening over there. Thank you very much. I would like to know if you have any further comments on this topic. Would any panel members like to talk about this? Or any other comment from the audience? I would like to thank for the second opportunity to speak. With regard to these initiatives, these national, local forums, and international ones, the youth programs and ambassadors, I would like us to be able to assess one initiative. All these initiatives and good programs and projects, how can we break away from this complexity and these hurdles and knock down these walls that close in all these many users of the internet, both technical and non-technical people who do not participate, like programs that are developed by organizations. Many people do not know what internet governance is and do not know what internet construction is and what they can do. So we don't want this to be closed amongst those who are interested in this. We want to reach out to all levels of society so that groups with access to higher level education, as well as those who never had access to education, but use these means. Everyone uses mobile phones nowadays for communication. So besides these great initiatives, I would like to thank you for the opportunity. So how can we do away with these barriers and reach out to the final user so that they can also participate?
I think there are no walls that were built on purpose. The fact is that these these events are open for participation. And this idea that we have built walls around and that they need to be torn down, I think it's something that really does not apply. These conferences and these events remain open for participation for anybody. And we even offer remote participation. In case you're busy or you cannot travel, you can use your computer to listen in. But from my point of view, well, you've had your chance. So there are no walls, in fact, to break down. Sorry, we are running out of time and we have a comment from a panel member. Unfortunately, I apologize. Later we can talk in the hallways or something.
That said it had a picture of a dog typing at a computer, as far as I remember. And the caption was, on the internet, no one knows that you're a dog. That's, for me, that was the most valuable thing about the internet, because you could state your opinion and people had to think about the opinion that you stated. No walls. Just you have to have the courage to say something and other people listen to you. The one thing I wanted to mention was that in the Caribbean, there is a very active virtual community called Civic. I understand that in the group of young people here, there are young people from the Caribbean, from the Dominican Republic, and from Barbados, and from, I don't quite remember. Please, come and tell me, and I can tell you how to get onto Civic. And once you've done that, you may also wish to involve yourself with the Caribbean IGF, which we've just, as I said, had the 11th meeting in September. It was in Trinidad. It's happening. People are talking. To be part of it, you simply have to open your mouth and speak or use your fingers on your keyboard. That's all. It takes a lot of courage, but once you've done it, it gets easier all the time.
Tenemos un comentario de la...
Teacher, we have a comment from a remote participant. So let's end with that.
The floor.
No te escuchamos, Nacho.
We can't hear you, Nacho.
Mientras resolvemos este problema, quizá lo podamos tomar por...
In the meantime, I think we can hand it over to Emmanuel. Unfortunately, our time is very short. I am Manuel Alcántara from the Dominican Republic. I have a question for Sebastián. Sebastián, you talked to us about the 10 more years for WISES, and I think that one of the thorniest point in the draft we did at the end of the year was considering whether the internet should be considered a human right. And there were people who went against it, others that were for it. And what's your opinion? Well, I'll be very brief because, of course, we could have a whole seminar dedicated to this point. My point of view is that it's not a human right. The internet is a facilitator for basic human rights, and it's a great tool. However, I think that try to put technology in lieu of a human right is something that simply doesn't work. Access to internet, of course, should be as widespread as access to education and access to food sources and all of that satisfy our basic needs. However, technology itself is not a right, in my belief. However, today, the internet is essential for us to uphold our basic human rights. This is the point.
Gracias, Sebastián.
Thank you very much, Sebastián. I'm not really sure if they fixed the issue with remote participation. Otherwise, unfortunately, we cannot entertain that comment. Nacho, we'll answer your question in private, unfortunately. I hope that you understand these things sometimes happen. I would like to thank our panel members for sharing their time this morning in the orientation session. And for all of you who attended, I hope it was useful for you. And please let us know if you have any questions. We are here to make this conference more enjoyable and more productive. And sometimes it's confusing with the number of sessions we have at once. We hope to see you participating in the coming years. Thank you so much, and we'll see you this week.